Does it pass through what they say, right? I don't even understand it. I'm not
Telecommunications hub.
right. Yeah, but I think where we got to be careful is like with AT&T and this deal at Tangeesan where they had through the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission long-term lease of there's some property over there, and they were basically bringing their cables ashore. But the thing is, they got such a deal on it is that I think like if we're going to diversify the economy and attract investment and businesses, then we got to be careful not to just roll out the red carpet and make sure that we still see some kind of return, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make money.
This is going to be a real good interview coming up because the three ladies that we have right now in the Zoom room, not only are they leading voices for Guam's commerce industry and everything like that, but all three of them are also very successful entrepreneurs themselves. They've started companies, diverse, by the way. Of course, Christine Belletto did wonderful works with the Fruits brand.
Christine, I miss Fruits. Sorry.
I was such a happy customer of Christine for many years.
I was freaking daydreaming about that. What was the one? It was like the toucan or something. Tropical Paradise.
Tropical Toucan. That's the one with our orange sherbet.
Yes.
One of our most popular smoothies out there. I honestly have been contemplating doing like a Fruits Express because I miss it too, right? But faced with minimum wage increase and the taxes as they are and just the environment for business, honestly guys, it's just not something that I think would be successful given those challenges. And so maybe in the future, but I miss it too, I tell you.
Yeah, well, you have 4 customers in the studio, so
and that is the pragmatism that Christine, certainly Madam President, that you bring to the table. And as I was saying, with the entrepreneurship, we've also got Mel Mendiola in the Zoom room who brought the wonderful concept of the subscription farm to table, with those fresh vegetables. Mel, we miss those so much. We were such happy customers. Half a day. Good to see you as always.
Not there, but they're still going.
Yeah. They just won an award or
you can still get your eggplants, Jay.
Well, I'm just saying because I'm pretty antisocial anyway, but because of the pandemic and everything like that, I never see the light of day. So the vegetables are growing more than I am these days.
The farm to table to me is like the OG, right? Because you have all the other different groups.
Copycats. Mm-hmm. Oh, you had to bring vegetables? Farm to Table did that already.
and then of course, if you need anything appraised, business or otherwise, our dear friend Siska is here, who has many books behind her, as we can see in the Zoom room. And Siska, I think you're sorely due to write several on your vast knowledge of real estate appraisal these days and everything. So good to have you here this morning.
Morning, Jason, Chris, and Serena.
Good morning. You look great.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you.
Like working out every day?
Yep. Yoga, elliptical.
Nice. Siska and I were alumni, I guess you could say, right?
We're ready.
Yeah.
Wait, are you alumni of the FBI? Are you talking about the FBI Citizens Academy? Oh,
yeah.
First rule of the FBI Citizens Academy: don't talk about the FBI Citizens Academy.
More like the Phenomenal Women's Academy.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like I could tell you what I did, but then you'd have to get a shot in your arm, and it's not the one you're going to get at Ukudu High School.
I'm kind of getting drowned out by all the estrogen.
Whoa.
Not the ouchie shot.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Jay, go ahead. So, I guess Christine, we'll just kind of start here with the governor's speech to the chamber. Was it kind of what you had expected?
Yes, pretty much. Well, actually, it was a lot more informative. I thought she brought out some really good points. And we appreciated her coming out and being very frank with our membership as to her position and reasons for the decisions she made. I obviously, as she mentioned, over the last year, we've not always agreed. But we've learned to kind of work together and at least understand each other's positions. She's obviously, going to continue to push what her priorities are. And as a chamber, we have to continue to push our priorities. But, I think that she hit a number of really good points that was very informative to our membership, especially relative to, understanding that with the raising of the threshold for the BPT lower taxes, that it hit 85% of our small businesses, which I think is really something that's key for us to understand. So I thought it was really good. And certainly she also talked about the economic diversification working group that she established based on the work of our think tank committee in developing a white paper and highlighting initiatives that we felt could be explored and brought to fruition to help diversify our economy. And as I mentioned, she also threw in a few of her own that her administration's been working on. So we have, I think, a good partnership. It's just getting off the ground. And Siska serves as the overall chair, along with Frank Capello and Joe Cruz. And obviously with Mel and Catherine at the chamber, we've got a really good support system. So we're really excited to see where this takes us.
Were you anticipating, or were you surprised how she just shut down this whole idea about the BPT? I know that's something that you guys were.
No, I can't say that I'm surprised. I think the governor has been very, very consistent with her position on that, and it's not our expectation that she will change her view on that. Again, she listed why that was important to her relative to the bondholders or government operations and so forth. And we as a chamber have to represent the business community and champion the fact that it's not even recovery for us. It's survival, and in most cases, some of these businesses have not even opened. And so we're going to continue to push initiatives that we feel are helpful to our business community. And again, going to what she said, we're not always going to agree, but it's not going to deter us from, pursuing what we think is important to that business community. And most importantly, to getting people back to work. I highlighted that, great, PUA has been extended to March. What happens then? We've got to, support businesses so they can provide gainful employment opportunities for people when they're ready to work. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to try to find ways that the federal government can give us money and perpetuate, kind of what's been happening with just, relying on assistance. But at some point, people are going to want to return to work, and where are they going to return if we don't support our business community?
Right. And I didn't watch the entire speech that the governor gave. So what is the gist of her plan then? Because from what I understood, she was going to be presenting her economic plan, and aside from touting what she's accomplished through the pandemic and the response to the pandemic, what is the plan that she presented for these businesses to survive?
That question to Mel.
Okay.
Being part of sort of the lead agency that handles economic development, I'll pass that on to Mel.
Hi, Mel.
Yes, most definitely. Thanks so much, Christine, and good morning, guys. So as far as her laying out the plan, I think two of the things that she touched on. She definitely touched on the way forward through the Economic Diversification Working Group. And if you look at the different initiatives in them, some of them are relatively low-hanging fruit that we're ready for today. I'll give you an example. One of them is captive insurance. Captive insurance is something that the board of GIDA passed a resolution several months ago to extend some tax incentives to make us competitive alongside Hawaii and the FSM. And so we think that something like that could be a relatively short-term win. But more than that, I think, so there's in the economic diversification plan, there's both the short-term and the long-term planning and the short-term and long-term wins. But then from the perspective of today's government, I think the governor's plan has to do with improving the services of today's government. So a lot of automation and digitization. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to permitting, one thing that we've observed at GIDA, we had a small business conference about, right before Thanksgiving, we had about 170 participants. And we were so pleased to see a lot of these participants are these guys doing their side hustles on Instagram, selling like foods and stuff like that. And one of the things we recognized was just what an onerous process the licensing and permitting has become. It's we were cracking up at our last economic diversification. We were like, yeah, it's like one stop 3 days, or one stop 5 times. And so that's something that's really important to her, as far as working on improving. Daphne Shimizu over at Department of Revenue and Taxation, Vince Ariola over at DPW are working very, very closely on that. We recently had a meeting with GFD. One of the things I didn't know was, did you know that for fire permitting, I always thought you had to have a full-fledged firefighter come in and do it. You can actually hire a consultant consultants to get you all the way to the finish line, and then just have the fire inspector sign off on it. That's something that I think if we push a lot of services out to the private sector, that's something that would help us streamline the process. And so these are the things we're trying to uncover in the government of Guam: more opportunities for the private sector, but also more opportunities to just improve services. And really, Gita just kind of taking on a real coordinator role, similar to back in my day at Farm to Table. We were, back when at Farm to Table, it was just about connecting farmers with the customers, helping communicate, helping build bridges. And so that's what Gita's trying to do in the picture, helping to build bridges, and we're doing that alongside the Chamber of Commerce. And so we're really, really happy about that.
Siska, let's talk about your role with this economic diversification, group.
Working group, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the official name is kind of lengthy, Economic Diversification Initiative Working Group, and it's the governor's working group. Just a little bit of history with the leadership of Chairwoman Christine Barreto. Back in June-July board meeting of Guam Chambers of Commerce, we approved to do this white paper on Economic Diversification Initiative. Frank Campillo and Joe Cruz from Cabres Marine spearheaded the effort with about 10 team leaders, and they talk about 10 different industries, including the alternative dispute resolution, captive insurance, Guam trust law, construction and labor, ship repairs, safe haven port, relocation of high wealth individual. Of course, this is triggered by what's happening in Hong Kong, but we also target a high wealth individual from Korea, Taiwan, and China. And then Frank came up with a pharmaceutical manufacturing relocation to U.S. territories. And lastly, the Silicon Village initiatives. And this is headed by Nate Manglo. Also satellite launching. And the governor added agricultural and aquaculture as the 11th industry that we're going to explore with this. Having said that, we're not like limiting to this 11 industry. We had a meeting with the legislature, Vice Speaker, and Senator Jim Moylan and John San Agustin, and Vice Speaker Tina Munya Barnes bring up about transshipment. There are a lot of public laws that have been issued that just need, someone or an organization to bring it, to put it forward. And so our working group, and it's not the first time that we've had this initiative to diversify Guam's economy.
Mm-hmm.
But what's different, what we think is different right now, is that what David John always said, Chairman David John from GIDA, he said, we're not going to working in silo. The government agencies are not going to be working in their own desk. The private sector, we're working together because our future depends on what we do in the present. That's what Gandhi said. So, I was telling Speaker Therese Terlahi that, it would be great 20 years from now, one of my kids work in the pharmaceutical manufacturing company here and said, hey, my mom and Senator Therese Terlahi 20 years ago talk about this and blah, blah. And, they and by that we mean by each industry has a team leaders, one team leader from the private sector. For example, Chairman Christine is the team leader for the captive insurance, and then we have a counter partner from the
Gita.
government agency, which is at Camacho for now. So each industry that we're exploring, we have team leaders from the private sector and from the government agency. And we do talk to the legislature already, the team. As a matter of fact, today at 2 p.m., all the team leaders are going to meet with the co-chairs and the GIDA and Chambers parties to talk about our game plan. We really want to make this forward. Frank and Joe are really eager. Every day they would, remind our meeting and with the team leaders and whatnot. So we really, really want to move forward with this. For example, we met last week with the DPW director, Vince Areola, and Vince is like boom boom, and so we've already arranged and identified 2 things that could help with the construction industry. Of course, I'm in the real estate industry, and I've been touting, the how our housing becomes so unaffordable right now. Median price of homes in 2020 was $333,500, $11.5% increase compared to the last year. And over the 7 years periods, the median price of housing has increased by 65%. That's an annualized rate of 7% per year. That's, crazy. Who can afford that, even though with the low interest rate? And that's because mainly there's limited supply. Over the 29 years that I've tracked building permit of new housing, there's about 300 new houses building permit every year. But last year, there's only about 143. So if there's no supply, of course, and the demand is still there, of course, what suffers is the price. And the demand, the supply is limited because the construction cost is so expensive here on Guam, no labor and whatnot. And so we talked to Vince, and Vince said, they're working really, just like what the governor mentioned, they're working really hard on the automation of the building permit process. And, our vice administrator at GIDA, Joanne Camacho, First Lady Joanne, is working on this too. And we want to really make sure that building permit can be done quickly. 3 months for a single family dwelling is too long, and that's without hiccups. And so Vince is working together with us to try to solve that problem. So that's kind of the sample of how the team is going to work. We're really going to work together, and Speaker Teresa Lahi said they're going to help whatever they can from the law side of things. So yeah.
Yeah, ladies, I have a question. Because it's been said so often during the last 10 months of our island's history and of the world's history, for that matter, that there's going to be a lot of people are saying there's a lot of opportunity, and now is the time, like Mel said, you might want to start like a side hustle company to bring in some more money, or people may have lost their jobs, their primary source of income may have been compromised. But can you speak from each of your own experience as entrepreneurs about this new era that we're in for people that may be contemplating starting a business right now and doing something that they might have passion in or that they've always wanted to try, but basically this is going to be it for them. There is the opportunity versus risk balance that we always have to manage. And I would say primarily in these days, the risk is so much greater because we really don't know what's going to happen from 1 month to the next. So from your own perspectives and everything like that, what words of wisdom can you pass along to people who might say, I'm going to try and branch out on my own, and I'm going to try and do something given the current climate?
Well, I think I can really speak to that because it's certainly a struggle that I have.
Sure.
And I've also have another family member that's kind of been consulting with me as to whether they should open a restaurant, which, as you know, suffered greatly during these last 9 months and is still trying to kind of rebuild clientele. And I think for anyone contemplating opening a business, you really have to take a look at what the environment is and try to develop a model that fits in with the current, climate of, higher cost of business on personnel, on taxes, having to contend with, possible higher rentals, for actual space, if that's what they desire. And I think that's why these internet, or social media, or whatever we call these side hustles, as Mel referred to it, are popping up, is because that seems to be the best way to minimize your costs and try to, develop a business, and be successful at it. One of the things that I've always put out there, there's a lot of people that believe that once you start a business, you're rich. Oh my goodness, you have a business, you're flowing. No, I mean, you oftentimes, depending on the size of the business that you're going to open, have to go out and take loans. People don't have thousands of dollars sitting in the bank to invest in a startup of a business. So you have loans, you put what you own as collateral. I know even when I started Fruits, I used to joke that the bank had title to my house, my children's house, my grandchildren's house, like every asset that I own. And I even had to go to my parents and ask them to co-sign to help me build my fourth store. Mm-hmm. That is the level of investment that you put in personally. And really the biggest risk is if your business is not successful, you can lose those assets. The bank could foreclose on your house because you wanted to pursue a dream. And then business owners, even as, especially as startups, but even as the pandemic, caused the closures and caused a difficult environment for businesses, owners of businesses were going back into the business. Why? Because we work for free. From morning to night, business owners are the janitors. I remember at Fruits, having meetings early on with people in the media, and they're like, yeah, let us know who your marketing manager, or get us the contact for your marketing person. And I'm like, look, I'm the floor sweeper, the dishwasher, the marketing, the administration. You do everything. And that's what it means to own a business. So, it's about that, understanding that risk and being able to build a model that mitigates that risk in these challenging times. Because as you said, Jason, we just don't know, how this is going to play out. Thank goodness the vaccines are here. They're being very aggressive with vaccine administration, and we really look forward to what the governor announced as the liberation from this, awful virus on our people, July 21st. But then there's threats of new strains. There's other threats. And so, those all have to be taken into consideration as you look at it, and you try to factor in how am I going to start this up, and how am I going to be successful at it? And so, again, it's just caution, really weighing out what's going on. And, like my suggestion a lot of times to folks is, do those businesses that have the least fixed costs, rentals and utilities and those kinds of things, because in any business you have revenue against cost of goods giving you a gross profit, and a lot of time, folks, there's not much left over.
Well, Mel, if I may, from your vantage point, are you seeing a uptake in the number of existing companies or existing entrepreneurs saying we want to do something at least in the short term, like maybe strategic alliances or partnerships or collaborations or things like that? We can join forces at least for a few months to kind of ride out the storm as a means of pooling talent, so that we don't all have to suffer independently. We can kind of hopefully have a better shot at success together.
I've not really heard of formal relationships. I know of friends kind of getting together and discussing different platforms and kind of supporting each other or making suggestions, helping each other to as far as especially the transition to the takeout, pickup, online ordering, those kinds of things. So I don't really see a joint partnership, but I see other business owners or managers helping other business owners and managers, because we really do try to support each other in the business community. And so I think that when someone develops a great idea or a process, they share that with their colleagues, and that's really helpful.
And that's a very important point to make, because even though people say business can be very cutthroat, and by its nature it is very, very competitive in the private sector, Inafa Malik does extend to private industry as well, and we are here to help each other out and look out for each other, even though we may be on paper rivals.
Absolutely, absolutely true.
Okay.
And if I may, Jason, I think it was yesterday, the Small Business Committee of the Guam Chambers of Commerce are meeting to kind of plan what we're going to do this year. And among other things is, to put resources for businesses, new businesses, small businesses, especially, on helping with the best practices. What are the the best companies on Guam do to deal with this pandemic, to deal with these changes, and we would like to support the small businesses like that. But when I first started my business, what really helps me is putting together a business plan. And business plan is really good because, I think like an engineer, because that's what my background is. You have income, you have expenses, of course, you're going to make money. But then in between there's cash flow. And so that business plan really helps me to understand that my business will need cash flow. I do have like some seed money, but I did bring my business plan to one of the lenders here on Guam and present my business plan and get a credit line, because I want to be concentrating in the first few months of my business. I want to be concentrating on what I do best, which is doing the valuation, doing the consulting, and not have to worry about cash flow. Because when I finish my report, I don't get paid immediately. There's lag time between invoicing and actually receiving your cash. And so that was really helpful, and it enables me to dream big. As a matter of fact, my loan officer was the now Governor Lulian Guerrero. I was, as a woman, really requested a very, I was being so cautious and not wanting to borrow. I think my credit line was like 50 grand, and she was like, 50 grand, why not 100 grand? Well, yeah, why not 100 grand? Think big, right? But that enables me to, to free up my resources to do what I do best. And the other advice that I would like to say to, people who's thinking of opening businesses is that, and it's kind of a cliche, but choose the field that you really love. I love what I do. I live and breathe real estate. I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. and do my report, and I'm giddy about it. So do the things that you love, so that you don't have to work for the rest of your life. Work. But yeah.
I had a question. I think we can all appreciate that the governor presented her plan on Guam's economic outlook and her vision for economic diversification. But as you said earlier, Christine, there are businesses out here that are just fighting to survive, and they're not looking at the vision for economic diversification. They're looking at, how am I going to stay open tomorrow or 2 weeks from now? And so having said that, Melanie, can you just kind of give us information about programs that you have that you can offer assistance to these businesses that don't know what their future holds, whether it's a couple of weeks or a couple of months?
Sure,
Right.
sure. Well, I know that all of the programs, both at the federal level and the state or the territory level, are aimed towards kind of a Band-Aid approach, right? So PPP round 1 and PPP round 2, this is basically to help with interruption that's existing today. One of the things the governor highlighted on yesterday was that we were the only territory to extend state level benefits to our small businesses, as far as not one round of grants, but 2. So we had our first round of small business pandemic grants back in May. Then we had the other round again. If you go to the banks right now, if you have the wherewithal to borrow, the rates are incredibly low. And that'll help with what, earlier Siska had talked about, the importance of cash flow. And so that's exactly what that's supposed to help with. And then GITA continues to look for ways, I've just been looking at what other states are doing, if other states are doing any other creative sorts of things. Things like the I think what the issue with things like the BPT or the minimum wage, or some of those, and then it's a compound effect, right? It's, oh my God, I'm already in this state of high stress, and then you're adding this and you're adding this and you're adding this, right? And a lot of times we weren't adding anything. These were things that were just coming to pass. And then COVID, we're in the middle of this crisis, right? And so now what our lawmakers are trying to address is, let's look at the BPT, let's look at our minimum wage, right? Let's look at all of these things that we had planned. How can we now then ease up and help people breathe a little? Like I said, we're looking at what our other states are doing as far as small business support. Some of them are offering through programs. Some of the work that we're trying to do right now is a lot of retraining, rehiring. So a lot of stuff through Department of Labor. So if you have if you have furloughed or laid off folks and you don't anticipate rehiring them, then we can address that part of the emergency. But for the small businesses themselves, I definitely think that small businesses who had some capital saved up and who had a cash reserve to start, and small businesses who are taking advantage of all of these programs, both state and federal, are the ones that are really going to be able to make it through to the finish line until the slow recovery starts. And then, I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, but I look at things like tax credits. I look at things like deferral, the effects of is there a special qualifying certificate we can issue to certain types of businesses that are highly affected? Just things like that are things that we research, like what would the impact really be?
I just wanted to ask before we say goodbye, Christine, I know the governor was very firm on her stance with the BPT. That being said, I know there's measures in the legislature, and it's really great to see you guys working together. I know that at times the relationship has been contentious, but do you anticipate that pursuing a reduction in the BPT may damage this relationship that we're now seeing? And given that the governor had basically said no, how good are your chances, you guys think? And this is something you're still going to seek?
Absolutely, Chris. Like I mentioned earlier, the governor has been consistent and firm since the beginning on her position with the rollback of BPT. The chamber has likewise been very consistent and firm on our position. And so, we are advocates for our businesses. We are advocates for the people employed by our businesses. And right now, that is something that consistently, if you look among the organizations, the other business organizations, and we do get together and collaborate, this is the single thing that is consistently requested from our businesses that they feel will really make a difference and help them. So we have a responsibility to continue to pursue those initiatives that our memberships and our community as a whole feel is helpful to them. I hope that doesn't damage the relationship. I think that the governor and I feel, at least with me, have developed at least the respect to understand that we're going to have opposing views. She highlighted that yesterday. We're not going to always agree, but we do need to be able to communicate, because ultimately, from both sides, we have the interests of the community as whole at heart. And so, we're going to continue to pursue. We hope that we will be able to convince some senators to support us in this measure. As you mentioned, Jim Moylan has already introduced the measure. I forget who his co-sponsors are, but I believe we have a couple of on there. And so we just need to work on the additional 13, try to convince them to support our cause.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, ladies, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you, Siska.
Thank you.
Good luck.
See you, Christine. Okay.
Morning.
You too. It's 8:08. We're KUAM FM. Agotnia, Guam on the radio side. The Breeze 93.9. To our viewers in KUAM TV land, thanks for jamming with us this morning. You can jump over at Facebook live feed or the show right here on the radio. There's always a lot coming up. Miss a link, miss a lot. My name's Chris.
I'm Sabrina.
Está. Adios.
Bye.
right. Well, there you go.
I just wanted to mention, since we did talk with Siska and Melanie as well as Christine, that you can actually watch the governor's address to the Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. It's also on our YouTube channel. And I just want to say, as a business major, I hope there were a lot of UOG, GCC, business interested kids watching that interview, because there were a lot of lessons that those ladies, who are incredibly experienced in a bunch of different industries, you're going to be able to actually take. They gave some really, really good advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so kids, if you're watching, I hope you're taking notes, because that's going to make a really, really good paper, FYI. And you'll be able to watch this interview too on our YouTube channel if you check it out. If you want to include, you don't have to ask us, just embed the video in your project and everything. Put it in your PowerPoint. We're totally cool. Our pleasure to help out.
All right, 8:09. Guys, we'll take a short break, and we're back with more of the show next, right here on The Link. Good morning.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable.